Hey guys, welcome to the channel and welcome back to another video. Now, on this video, guys, we want to talk about today about forgetting 90% of everything you know about money, changing the way you think about money, developing another philosophy about money, right? Something different about money. That's the whole focus of today's live is saying, look, everything I learned about money may not be right. How can I change it? What can I do different? Maybe give me something different to think about. That's what we want to talk about. Maybe starting over in terms of how you think of money. Guys, let me know where you're from. Give me a mic check. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know you can hear me. And let's just have this conversation. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for showing up on this Saturday morning. Good to have you here. Lots going on in the U.S. economy. Lots going on in the popular news, right? I mean, the news cycle is crazy out there, but we want to focus on money today, guys. Handling our money, something that's, you know, um, pretty important, right? We all use it, right? So give me a thumbs up. Let me know you can hear me and let me know where you're checking in from, guys. Good morning to you. Check the logic. Good to have you. Mark Moore as well. Jay, good to have you. Grayman, good to have you. Yeah, welcome to Filling the Gap by Smart Money Grow. I kind of like real money talk or real talk with Smart Money Bro, but filling the gap is cool. Appreciate that. Check the logic. TJ, good to have you here. Victor Swift, thanks for the thumbs ups. It looks like you guys can hear me out in the Philly suburbs. Grayman said, Gemini is checking in as well. Good to have you. Um, Kevin Thomas, good to have you as well. All right, good to have you in here. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. Thanks for the thumbs up, Irvin. Somebody checking in from my old city, Manhattan, Kansas, where Kansas State is. I actually graduated from Kansas State back in 1994. So Cameron, good to have Cameron, good to have you. Oh, Cameron, that's Cameron. Okay, I know you, Cameron. Good to have you. Yvonne Colbert, good to have you too. Good morning from San Francisco. Benjamin's checking in from Jackson, Mississippi, the capital of Mississippi. Thank you for the thumbs up, guys. What I want to talk about is developing your mindset about money, right? Have you ever given serious thought to your thoughts about how you think about money, right? And then tie that into how you were raised, what you saw, what you experienced growing up, and tie all that into where you are right now with your money, right? Where you are at this point with your money. Some of you may be brand new starting out, you trying to develop a philosophy about money, and that's cool. This video is perfect for you. Some of you may be established at 40, 50 years old, and you have a way that you think about money. And that's cool too. But I'm asking you to kind of revamp and rethink the whole process. Maybe, maybe forget 90% of everything that you were taught about money or with money and begin to look at money a little bit differently, right? Because what you have right now, for most of us that are, let's say, 25 and older, right? 25 or 30 and older, what you have right now, how much you have saved, how much you have invested, there's a correlation between that and what you think about money. And a lot of times, what happens with us, we don't put those things together. We just kind of roll along in life. We just roll along doing and not realizing that subconsciously we're treating money the way we were taught to treat money. And if the outcome is poor or not good, then you need to consider forgetting every single thing you learned about money growing up and changing your perspective, right? A lot of people have not thought consciously, intentionally about money. They just use it every day. No big deal. Kind of like getting when you get in the car, you just stick the key in and you turn the ignition and you go. People don't think about all the things that are going into making that car go or to making, how you spend money happen, right? Most people are not thinking about that. What I'm challenging you to do on this video, on this live, I'm challenging you to think a little deeper about money, about maybe forgetting because everything you've learned about money. We'll get into that in a little bit. Let's go back to the chat. St. Louis in the house. Victor, good to have you. RC's in the house from Boynton Beach, Florida, checking in. Good to have you, Mrs. Moore, as well. Antoine is here. Ira, My girl Ira checking in. Good to have you, Ira, as always. Itchy Asian, good to have you from Virginia. And thanks for the thumbs up, guys. I appreciate it. Tulsa, Oklahoma is in the house. Hello from Turkey. Good to have you all the way from Turkey. We get them from all over the world, guys. When you come in, hit the like button, the little thumbs up at the bottom. Go ahead and hit that for me if you can, please. And it helps, right? It helps, YouTube understand this is a good video or a good video people should watch or what have you. And don't forget, you can share the link to this video if you know somebody and you want to help them in terms of how they think about money. This is a good video. What we're going to talk about today is going to be good for you to share with them. So share the video, like the video. If you're first time here, please consider subscribing to my channel. I really would appreciate that as well. We're growing tremendously. Just went over the 120,000 subscriber mark. So very happy about that and celebrating that win as well. Carissa, thanks for the thumbs up. Joe Wash, good to have you in here from Charlotte. And somebody from Poland, good to have you, Camille from Poland. California, Palmdale's here. Man, we get them from all over the place. So, guys, it's my belief, my little humble belief, right, that where you are with money right now, good, bad, not so good, in debt up to your eyeballs, whatever it could be, right? Wherever you are with money is an indication of what you've thought about money up to this point, right now, today. Where you are is what you've thought about money and how you have behaved with money up to this point. So if you're doing really, really well with money, you got a couple of 100,000 into your 401k and you're 35 years old, you got a couple 100,000 in your 401k and you're doing pretty well. You invest quite a bit of your money. You're cool because how you thought about money to this point has led you to good behaviors with money. But if you're not there, you're like a lot of people, 40 years old or 20, 25, 30, 45, 50 years old, and you're not where you want to be with money. It's because of this right here. Because this right here controls how you behave, right? And how you behave controls outcomes. But it starts with how you think about money. See, where you are is just a sum total of all the things you've thought or been taught about money all your life. And so for many of us, we have to forget 90% of everything we were taught with money. We got to forget about it. Not that the people that were teaching us were bad. It's not the people that were teaching us was horrible people, but it is what it is, right? I can't go back and change all that, but I can change what's going forward starting today, right? So if you have no money, if you have plenty of money, it's a reflection of how you feel and how you think and how you behave with money thus far. Maybe it's time to start over. Maybe it's time to start over anew, right? It could be a point in your life where you say, you know what? Nothing I'm doing is working. What do I have to do different? What can I do different? Right? And it's possible. Let me just put that out there in the airwaves, right? Because I always like to speak life, right? Give life. So it's possible. It's just that you're going to have to make some serious changes. You're going to have to do things entirely different. You're going to have to do a 180 turn on how you think. And that's going to ultimately change how you behave with money. And that's going to ultimately change your outcomes with money. But it starts again with how you think. Let me get this banner off here real quick, guys. Boom. Just want to take that banner off. So again, appreciate you guys being here. Listen, in the description box below, where's it at? It's right here. I've got my partner on this video, Mint Mobile, right? Check them out, guys. Also in the description box on YouTube, I've got 24 Laws of Money, which is a free ebook that helped me build my wealth over time. It helped me build my money and change my money philosophy. These are 24 principles that help guide me from being a broke 30-year-old person with no money to being a person that can really claim to have a 7-figure net worth. And I don't like to say that too much because I don't want to brag or boast or anything like that. But and some people say, well, do you have receipts? whatever that may mean. Yeah, I've got plenty of receipts. If you join the channel, I did just walk through my entire net worth about 2 months ago on here. There's a private video. I didn't make that video public, but the point is that what I'm telling you helped me, and it could help you as well, right? So I want you to think about developing a new and different philosophy about money, right? If you're not where you want to be with your money, right? You got to develop a winning philosophy with money. Winning philosophy. If you're not winning with money, you got a losing philosophy. If you're not winning with money, you got a loser's mentality with money. Just you got to call it what it is, right? You got to attack the elephant in the room. If you're not where you're at with money, you don't have a winning mentality with money. You don't have a winning philosophy with money because you're not winning, right? Stop telling yourself you're winning and start being honest with yourself about what you have and what you don't have. Attack the elephant in the room and don't be afraid of attacking reality. We live in a world that is so much, there's so many illusions around us that it becomes natural and a habit for us to form the illusion about our money to ourselves. But you got to be honest with yourself about what you have and what you don't have. That's number one. If you can't do that, nothing else matters, right? You got to be flat out honest and tell yourself the truth. So on this video, that's the goal. In this live, that is the goal. I want to talk about some things and then give you a different way of thinking about money that's a little bit out of the norm, out of the ordinary. It's going to make you different with money. It's going to set you apart when you have this type of mentality. I guarantee, listen, I won't guarantee you anything, but I'm going to say this. If you want to be like everybody else, think like everybody else, because then you'll do what everybody else is doing. And then you'll have what everybody else has, right? Right. But the average person is swimming in debt. I put a video out yesterday and I did a thumbnail for it, and it showed that the rich was chilling on money. I don't know if you saw it yesterday, but I forgot what the title was. The title of the thumbnail was "The Rich People Are Different." Rich people chilling on money, middle class people chasing money, and poor people just sort of like money is far apart from them and they feel hopeless, right? The average person is somewhere in that middle to poor range. They're either chasing money or they feel like money is too far out there for them to actually get, right? But that's ordinary. When you come to this channel on YouTube, I don't want you to be ordinary. I want you to stop being ordinary. Stop thinking ordinary. Stop thinking like everybody else. Stop being just like everybody else. Because if you want to be different, you got to do different. You got to think different and you got to do different with your money. You can be like everybody else, chasing money, right? Acting like you have money when you don't really have a lot of money, right? You can be like everybody else, do the things that everybody else do, get in debt up to your eyeballs. That's cool. But I'm trying to get you to another level with money. I'm trying to get you to another place with money. So you're not just average, you're above average. You're not just middle class. You're rich. You're not just middle class. You have real wealth, right? Not the cars and the clothes and the shoes and the jewelry and the stuff that look in the big old house that looks like you got money, but actually have money, right? I want you to just be average, look average, but be wealthy. I don't want you to look rich, look wealthy, and just have average money, right? So you got to think different if you want to get to that next level. You got to set yourself apart. And you don't set yourself apart with money by following the gurus on IG, right? That's not it. That's not it. You set yourself apart by doing the little subtle things behind closed doors in terms of how you think and how you behave with money that sets you apart from everybody else. So you're not feeling stressed with money. You're not living paycheck to paycheck. I don't want that for you, right? Hey, if you're on YouTube, again, check the description box. Hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you're not a subscriber. Got free stuff down there in the description box. So check those things out as well. And I do offer one-on-one personal financial mentoring and coaching. I don't have a bunch of classes. I don't want you to spend $10,000 of your money hanging out with me or going on a private jet. I don't want to do any of that. If you want some one-on-one, because personal finance is personal, you can hit me up. There's a link to that in the description box as well. Let's jump into it. Let's jump back into it, right? The first thing I want you to rethink when you're talking about money, to maybe forget 90% of everything you were taught and maybe start over, the first thing I want you to consider and think about is credit cards. Now, whenever I talk about credit cards, I get a lot of people that beat me up. Hey, I use credit cards every day to pay all my bills, right? Hey, I use credit cards to do everything, and I get those points, and I take trips, and I stay in hotels with those points. Cool. If that's you, that's what the average American person does. That's exactly what average people do. They use the credit card. Sometimes they pay them off. Sometimes they don't. Listen, 60%, 50 or 60% of Americans carry a credit card balance over month to month. So when I have these conversations about credit cards, everybody tells me, oh, I pay my credit cards off. Everybody ain't paying their credit cards off. Credit cards are a temptation. Let me explain my take on credit cards. I don't have a huge problem with one credit card. I'm not a Dave Ramsey guy that says you got to get rid of, don't have any credit cards. If you have one and you feel comfort and safe with it, whatever's good for you. I haven't owned a credit card in probably 12 years, 12 or 13 years or so, right? I haven't needed it. I haven't needed it for anything I needed to do. I could travel, do everything I wanted without a credit card, right? I cut up the one credit card I had because I kept using it on my rental properties. And I said, you know what, this is too much temptation. I'm done with the credit cards. I cut it up about 12 or 13 years ago, right? So I haven't used credit cards, and my wealth has grown, right? So now I'm not 1000% against credit cards. If you have one that you use and you're responsible and disciplined enough to pay it off, that's cool. That's up to you. I don't want that temptation around me, right? I don't want to keep ice cream in the freezer because I might eat the ice cream, right? I don't want to keep credit cards around me because I might use credit card. Credit cards are loans. Every time you swipe or use a credit card, it's a short-term loan. That's why when the Federal Reserve raises the short-term interest, the federal funds rate, it raises all short-term interest loans, whether that's a 3-year loan on a car that you go get, whether it's a 5-year loan on an automobile, whether it's a credit card loan, whether it's a 6-month loan you go to the bank to take out. Credit cards are short-term loans. Many of the interest rates now are well into the 20-something percent. Why is it so high? Because the Fed raised the Fed funds rate, and that raises the credit card rates that banks and whoever issues credit cards charge you, right? So if you want to take out that short-term loan, you go for it. Most of America is using credit cards. You have to be willing, again, to be different than most of America if you want to have different than most America. You don't really have to live on the borrowed money of a credit card like people tell you you do. Do you, if you want to go buy a house or some appreciating assets at some point, like a house or a commercial building or a rental property, yeah, you got to have some type of credit history. Typically, you don't have to. You can do a type of loan, that's underwritten a little bit different. But for the most part, yeah, you may have to have a little bit of credit, one credit card, but you don't have to live on. If you want to live on credit cards to get the points, go for it. Totally up to you, right? A lot of times with credit cards, though, sometimes you spend more than you would normally spend, right? There's many studies to show that when you swipe a card or use a card, you end up spending more than if you use cash or a debit card or a checking account, right? You spend more when you use a credit card. So you spend more to get the points. When if you didn't spend more, maybe you would save the money to do whatever the points are affording you to do. I don't know. I'm just saying. You can pay all your bills with your credit cards if you want, but you don't have to do it. I want you just to kind of rethink how you look at credit cards. Right? Many people cannot handle credit cards in a disciplined way. Doesn't mean they're bad people. Doesn't mean they're horrible people. It just means that they may have to get the credit cards out the house. If I can't keep ice cream in the house, it don't make me a bad person or an undisciplined person or a horrible person. It just means the ice cream is tempting to me, so let me remove the ice cream. right? If I'm an alcoholic, I'm not going to keep a drink in the refrigerator or a drink in the house, right? Doesn't make me a horrible person because I don't keep the drink in my house. It just means that I have to take other measures that other people don't have. And so for me, I had to get rid of the credit cards, right? Because I might use them. I was tempted to use them too much and say, this is not a good thing. Let me change that. Got rid of them, right? Credit cards were not my friend. Some of you are good at, okay, I pay this one off, pay that one off. Now do this, shuffle this over here and shuffle that. Make sure that's cool. If you feel like doing that, I'm not against you because personal finance is personal. I just don't need it and did not need it and did not use it. I want it to be different, right? Using credit cards, I know nowadays it's become commonplace, right? Almost everybody does it, right? But but a lot of people are paying double-digit interest rates, not double-digit, 20-something% interest rates right now, just to go buy some groceries or just to go buy some gas for their car or just to go whatever, buy a shirt, right? People don't realize that credit cards are loans, right? I'm not going to advise you one way or the other. I'm just telling you to rethink that. Again, everybody uses 80% of everybody uses credit cards. But you don't want to be like the 80%. You want to be like the 5% that's really building wealth. So really, really think about that one, right? Credit card interest rates makes the prices of a $10 item be $12 or a $200 item be $220, right? Just think about that. Another one I want you to rethink, right? Just think about. Again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you some things to think about that you may want to forget the 90% of everything that you learned about money and start over in terms of how you think. Start over in terms of your philosophy with money. Where are we at? 21. Okay, give me a second here. All right. All right, next thing is this. Cars. Now, I did a video about a week ago about cars and about how to consider not well, did 3 weeks ago I talked about don't finance cars, okay? In my opinion, cars drain people of money. So I do suggest this that you stop financing cars. All right? Millions of new cars are sold every single year. Millions of used cars are sold every year, right? And people say I can't afford to buy a car cash. Well, you can't afford to buy a car cash because you haven't been strategic to buy you haven't intentionally tried to buy a car cash, right? But if you can save up a little money, do some pre-planning, some pre-strategy, strategizing the whole thing, you could buy a car cash in a few years. You may not be able to buy a car cash right now because you don't have any money. But if you wait a couple of years, wait 18 months, wait 24, 30 months, you could probably buy a car cash, right? You just have to start planning right now, right? So just think about that for a second. Many people finance cars. The average used car payment, I think, right now in America is about $500 something a month, right? That's a lot of money. So if you can pay $500 a month today for a car payment, why can't you save $500 a month for 18 months and have $9,000? Save $500 a month for 24 months and have $12,000. Go out and buy yourself a good, solid $12,000 car because the whole year and a half, 2 years, you're studying, you're reading, you're doing your research, etc. the whole time. Because you can't afford to buy a car cash because you don't believe you can afford to buy a car cash. If you believe that you could start to do it, guess what? What I say earlier, everything starts in the mind. So if you believe it, you'll start to do the behavior and start to save the money to buy the car cash. So don't let anybody tell you that you can't afford to buy a car cash. You can afford it. It's just going to take you some time to strategize and plan and save for it, right? If you can pay the $500 a month to have the used car, then you can save the $500 a month and perhaps wait. Now, maybe you can't do that right now because you have no money and you need a car by Monday, right? If you become a desperate buyer for a car, that's when you make mistakes. So I always tell folks, listen, take your time to buy a car. If you have an older car right now and you know that in the next couple of years you're going to want to get another car, start saving right now, right? That's being different than most people or a lot of people who say, I only have $2,000 to put down payment on a car. I'm going to finance a $15,000 or $20,000 car. I'm going to finance a $25,000 car. I'm going to make payments on it. Well, now you're making payments on something going down in value. Now you're doing the opposite of wealth building. The opposite of wealth building is taking your cash and putting it on something that's depreciating. And at the same time, paying money interest to borrow the money to pay, right? You're like killing your ability to build wealth when you have a car payment, right? Because you're borrowing money and you're paying for the money, you're borrowing the money, and you're making a monthly payment, right? It just kind of amplifies, right? What's going on. So you're making a mistake by financing the car, but then you're making another mistake because you're paying interest, making another mistake because it's depreciating, making another. So the point is that it's just so many layers on top of layers of maybe I haven't had a car payment since 2012 or so. I think 2012 is when I had my last car payment, right? But I've been there. So these things I'm telling you about in terms of forgetting about how you were taught with money and maybe starting over with your philosophy on money are things that I've experienced and been there. I'm giving you this to say, hey, you don't have to make the same mistakes I made if you just do what I'm telling you to do. If you're a 20-year-old, a 25 or 30-year-old watching this, you don't have to suffer and do what I did. I'm telling you what I did wrong so you can do different and get to where I'm at today 15 years before me, right? So car payments, I want you to rethink how you were taught about car payments. And a lot of people, frankly, guys, if you grew up like me and you didn't come from any money, you grew up poor, right? You experienced, welfare for a time or food stamps for a time. When you do that, sometimes when we get a little older, guess what we do? We overcompensate. And so we grew up with nothing. So now that we have a little bit of money and we make $80,000 a year, $100,000 a year, we say, I'm going to go out and get me this something because I never had it and I always wanted it. So we begin to overcompensate on what we do if we're not used to having much, right? Just point blank, straight up honest with you guys, right? We overcompensate and we think, and all of a sudden we look for the stuff to make us feel better. The car, the big house and things like that, right? But as I talk about all the time on this channel, this is being smart with your money, bro, is not putting money first, not worshiping money, not chasing money, none of that. Being smart with money, meaning put money in its proper place, right? And don't feel like just because you make six figures now on your job that you have to go out and buy the brand new Mercedes Benz, right? But this is the type of thing we do on a regular basis when we grew up with nothing, now we have something, and now we want to overcompensate, right? We don't want to be frugal no more because we had to be frugal all our lives. And so now we're saying we don't want to be frugal, we want to splurge. That gets you in trouble with money, right? Now I get it. Sometimes people feel like in terms of a car, I have no choice but to take out a loan on a car, right? But I want you to think about that, right? Think about the type of car you're getting. Do you really need the big old SUV that's going to be $75 to fill it up, $80, $100 to fill it up, and it's just you and your wife, or you and your husband, or you got one child? Do you really need the big old SUV Suburban that's going to cost you $100 to fill it up? Do you really need that? Right? Sometimes people buy cars that are totally different than what their needs are because they have these wants, right? And they can't tell themselves no. You got to be different with money, right? You got to be different with money. Do you need that two-seater sports car that's going to cost you $600 a month in insurance and $900 a month on a payment and $600 a month on insurance, and all of a sudden you're paying, and do you really need that? Right? Right? Now, I just want you to rethink how you think about vehicles, cars, right? Again, you may have to forget 90% of everything that you were taught about money to end up getting good with money, to be better with money, to have more money, to begin to build wealth. You can begin to build wealth. You definitely can. But it's all about the choices that you're going to have to make, right? Another thing I want you to think about is buying the right house, right? And I know right now there's not a lot of folks buying a house, right? Because we have a lot of people that are locked into these 2 and 3% mortgages, right? And they don't want to refinance to a 7 or 8 or 6 or 7% mortgage, right? I get it. But some people are buying property right now. Some people have to buy property, and it's okay if you want to buy property right now. I'm not a person to tell you don't buy a house, because I don't believe you need to time the market when it comes to buying a house. I believe you buy a house when you're ready to buy a house, when all of your finances are lined up and you're ready to buy a house. But when it comes to buying a house, I want you to think about the house purchase. Don't overspend on a house. When it comes to buying a house, bigger is not necessarily better, right? Just because you can claim 3,000 or 4,000 square feet over 2,000 square feet doesn't mean it's always better. Again, another area that we always tend to overcompensate for if we didn't grow up with houses. Remember, well, don't remember if you never heard me, I never lived in a house owned by anybody that I knew until I was 30 years old and I bought my first house, right? And I bought a rental house when I was 30 years old also. But other than that, I lived in apartments all my life. All my life, I was in apartments or small houses that my mom rented, right? Rented out, right? Sometimes, I mean, when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, we lived in an apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment, but we had 7 people in the house, right? 6, 7 people in the house. So I'm not used to buying a house or having a house. But when I got 30 years old, I bought a house. 35, I bought my second house, right? But the point is I didn't overspend on that to the point that I had to, that I, my DTI, my debt to income wasn't crazy, right? But unless you have a large family, do you really need 6,000 square feet in a home, right? More taxes, more maintenance, more utilities, more furniture, whatever it could be, right? You got to consider when you buy a house, there's other costs. There's regular old maintenance and operating costs beyond just a monthly mortgage, right? Taxes, insurance, all that stuff, right? So do you really want to put that type of burden on you on a long-term basis in terms of a house? So buy a house that you can afford. Buy a house that you can safely afford as you're considering looking for a piece of property. And always think back to how you were taught about money when you're making these large purchases for a car or for a home. Think back to how you were taught about money, and maybe before you make that large purchase, reassess that thinking to help you make a better decision moving forward, right? Think about when you're buying a house, think about what's important to you. Most important to you, right? If it's location, okay, good. Keep that location at the forefront of your mind. But whenever you buy a house, you guys know this, right? And I own rental houses for many years, right? Whenever you buy a house, you have to look at the pros and cons, right? Look at what you can live with, what you can't live without, right? You got to look at your wants and your needs in terms of a house, right? So all these things are things you got to think about. And when you start thinking about them, they may challenge the way that you've always thought about money. Right? Just be mindful of that. Hey, another thing about buying a house is this, guys. Do you want a 15-year mortgage? Do you want a 30-year mortgage? That's always a hot topic, right? That's a really, really hot topic. Do you want a 15-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage? Now, here's my take on it. I like 15-year mortgages. Okay. I like 15-year mortgages, right? If you want to let me see, how do I say it? What's the word? Give me the word. If you want to escalate, is it escalate? If you want to quicker increase your net worth, put a house on a 15-year note. Yep. I'm telling you, that's my preference. Put a house on a 15-year note. If you want to do a 30-year note and pay a little extra on it, that's fine too, right? Again, I don't like to really have these really hard and fast rules with some things when it comes to money because everybody's different. If you're scared of that 15-year mortgage because you think, oh my gosh, I can't make that extra 300 or 400 payment every month, then maybe you need to buy less of a house. Instead of the $400,000 house, maybe you need to buy the $250,000 house if you're scared to put it on a 15-year note because the mortgage is going to be so high, right? Maybe you need to change the way you look at the house buying process. If you put a house on a 15-year note, in 15 years, the house is yours. It's paid off. You don't have to have especially as you get older. Let me just say this, guys. When you get 50, 60 years old, you're not thinking about quitting. You're thinking about quitting work, but you're thinking about quitting work and you want your expenses to be as little as possible when you retire or when you get older. So if you're 40 years old and you want to refinance your home, consider putting it on a 15-year note so that when you're 55, you can have your house and not have a $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 payment every month. Because the more money you have to pay when you stop working, the more you can't stop working. You got to keep working to pay for the house. So if you can pay the house off before you get to that point, great. See, when you're 25 years old or 30 years old, people don't tell you this. They say, put it on a 30-year mortgage and just pay a little extra if you can. But guess what? Life gets in the way, and oftentimes you can't pay that extra, right? But if you're 25 years old and you put a house on a 15-year mortgage, by the time you're 40, you're sitting on $300,000 or $400,000 worth of equity, $300,000 or $400,000 worth of house. You can sell the house. You can do whatever you want with the house. You got options. But if you're 25 years old, here's where everybody makes a mistake, and here's how average people think with a house. I'm 25 years old. I bought my first house. Yay, I put it on a 30-year mortgage. Okay, I'm 35 years old. 10 years later, I have it on a 30-year mortgage. I refinance that house into another 30-year mortgage. Yay, pull out some cash. Get to 45 years old. Let me refinance. And you end up being 45 years old. You could have been 40 with a paid out off home, but now you're 45 years old with a house that still has 20 more years to pay on it because you refinance it and pulled cash out. You refinance it and pulled cash out. I'm just being real with you. Everybody on this chat, you probably know somebody that's done that or you done that. The real flex to build wealth with a home is to buy the home at 25 years and pay it off at the age of 40. That's being different. Remember what I said, you cannot be like everybody else if you want to have different than everybody else, right? You got to be thinking about that. How can I look at money a little bit different so I can be at another level? I don't want to just be middle class and satisfied. I want to be wealthy. I want my kid to be wealthy, right? I want my kid's kid to be wealthy. I want my kid's kid, my great grandkid to be wealthy. What do? Put it on a 30-year mortgage like everybody else, or put it on a 15 or put it on a 10-year mortgage and pay it off? What do? How do you be different? How do you forget the 90% of everything that you were taught with money and start over with your philosophy and how you think different? I'm just giving you ways to think different. I'm giving you ways not to be the average person, right? Guys, if you're in the chat, don't forget to smash the like button. Don't forget to share this link with somebody who you think could use it. One of your friends, one of your family members, one of your people in your network. Share this link with them, right? Just a real basic Saturday morning talk about money, about how to think different about money, how to start a new philosophy that's a winning philosophy with money. The other thing to think about is this, guys, the illusion of control, right? A lot of us with our money, we believe that we control the outcome of events and things that we really don't have any control over. And we focus on these things that we just don't have control over. Sometimes there's an illusion of control out here that we have to be careful about when it comes to money. And when I say illusion of control, let me say it like this. Sometimes this comes in the form of you have a high income and you think because you have a high income, you're doing okay with money, right? You seem to think that because you have a high income, or let's say you've been on your job a long time, right? An illusion of security on your job, an illusion of having a high income, and that's okay, right? You're feeling good about it, but really it all ain't good. I run into a lot of people that I have one-on-ones with that out on the outside, they look like they balling. Oh man, she got that. He just bought that. Ooh, they doing well over there. They're not doing well over there. It's an illusion of control, right? Right? It's like you're feeling good when it ain't really all that good. You sort of give yourself permission to buy into the illusion that all is under control. Sort of similar like to what's called like confirmation bias, right? Be careful about this confirmation bias. You find you seek out ways to validate your current beliefs and your current money philosophy, even if your current money philosophy is not going well for you. So you have this big house and this nice car, and this it's sort of an illusion, and then for confirmation bias, you sort of tell yourself when you look outside, man, I got a nice house, got a nice car. But then when you go to your budget, it's like, man, I don't have no money left. I feel like I'm living paycheck to paycheck because you've confirmed this bias that your everything you know and do with money is cool and good and right. But it's really not. It just feels like it is and it looks like it is. So you sort of have an illusion to yourself, right? Confirmation bias. You make up things to validate your current money philosophy, but the current money philosophy has led to $100,000 in debt, or it's led to a negative net worth, but you look good on the outside, right? You got that house, and then you just bought another house, you're Airbnb over here, and then you have a couple of nice cars in the driveway, and you're putting 5% towards your 401k, and it's looking all good, but it ain't all good, right? You just confirming your bias that you're doing well when in reality you may not be doing so well. You're just trying to validate those beliefs. People do this a lot with their money. And you got to be careful because it keeps you in the matrix. It keeps you in the illusion that all is well. And guess what? When you think all is well, status quo, you just keep rolling, doing the same thing with money, getting further and further behind, getting further and further in debt, buying further and further into the illusion of just being average like everybody else. You have to step outside of that. Be honest with yourself and look in the mirror and say, okay, it looks to all my friends and family, right? It looks like I'm doing well and all that stuff, right? I feel good, but am I really doing well? Let me look at this. Let me look at my numbers behind closed doors and see if I'm really, let me run my net worth and see if I'm really doing well. Is my assets really more than my liabilities? Look, if you're 45 years old, you make $150,000 a year, and you got $100,000 net worth, you're behind. Let's call a thing a thing. This is what I like to do on this channel. I don't like to pull punches. I don't like to act like everything's okay. I don't like to pull the wool over your eye. I like to just tell you, you got to look at your money in an honest way, right? Other thing I want you to think about, going back to houses, guys, let me just kind of wrap about this, is equity. I want you to think about how you feel about equity. Rethink the term equity. Refinancing and pulling cash out of that house means basically giving away ownership is what you're doing, right? And I mentioned the refi earlier. That's when I want to go back and mention this. No cash refinancing might make sense when you refinance a home, right? And nobody's really refinancing right now because of what I said, what's going on with rates, right? But at some point, people get in this habit of refinancing, and they think that, refinancing only really makes sense if you want to lower your rate, right? If you're stuck in a 4% rate and you want to get down to a 2% rate, or maybe you just bought a home in the last year and a half and had a 6% interest rate. Well, the next 6 months, when the Fed starts lowering the Fed funds rate, and then the Treasury notes, and that'll go down as well. So then what'll happen is the mortgages might go down, or the mortgage rates might go down to 4%. So at some point later in the year, and we'll talk about it on this channel, but later in the year, you might have bought a home at 6.5%. You want to refinance it to 4%. That's when the refinance makes sense, right? But in terms of equity, think of equity as an asset. Think of equity as one of your assets, right? Your home, as a matter of fact, for a lot of people, your home equity is one of the most valuable assets you have, and equity being the difference between what you owe and what it's worth. That's the equity on the market. If the market value is $300,000 and you owe $200,000, you have $100,000 of equity. Equity is one of the most valuable assets you have, and it can increase over time as you pay down the mortgage and as the value of the property increases, the equity in the home increases. And people start looking at that equity as something to pull out cash, right? But before you decide to tap into that equity, just make sure you think about what you're tapping into that equity for, or do you even want to tap into that equity, right? Some people like a HELOC, right? Home equity line of credit allows you to use that equity sort of like you use a credit card almost, right? You can tap into it here and there, right? And they're usually a higher interest rate. Just be careful about that, how you think of all these things. Do your research, and don't just do the research that confirms the way you already think about something, right? If you already think loans are okay, be sure not to just do the research that confirms your bias that loans are okay, right? When you take out a HELOC, you're essentially taking out a loan that is guaranteed and backed by the asset called your equity. Something to think about. Another thing to think about is this, guys: investing too little. Investing too little, not investing enough. If you don't get your money working for you through stock market, income producing investments, you may never be able to stop work. You'll be the person that's 75 years old and can't stop working because you got to keep working. And I think I'm going to do a video I think I'm going to do a live about this because this is like really, really, really important, right? Understanding the concept of making money work for you, right? Making money work for you. When you make a monthly or biweekly contribution to a retirement account, stock market, you got to do that. That's essential for you to do to have a comfortable retirement. You need to be, if you're 25 years old, 30 years old, and you're listening to this, please, please, please be putting as much as possible towards the stock market right now for the long term. I'm not saying you got to get out there and day trade. I'm not a day trader, but you got to be in the habit of putting as much money as possible away for later. At the end of almost every broadcast I have, or every video, I always tell you the best person to take care of the old you is the young you. The reason is that the 60-year-old you, who you're 30 years old and you ain't even thought about this person, but the 55 and 60-year-old person that's called you wants to retire at 50, 55, 60. They don't want to have to keep working 50 hours a week. They want to retire. They don't want to rely on their kids and grandkids to take care of them. I'm talking about you when you get 60, 65, 70. Therefore, when you're 25, 30, 35, you need to be socking away a whole bunch of money for the old you. This is how you be different than everybody else. Stop thinking in the now. When you got to be a person that looks at the long term. You got to be able to have a vision of 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road. Because when you start thinking about the old you, it helps you be a little more responsible today, right? So you got to be a person that has a long-term. This is how you forget 90% of everything you were taught with money, because 90% of everybody is planning for the weekend, and they're planning for the summer, which is 3 or 4 months away, and they're planning for these things that's coming up, the concert. That's what 90% of the people are planning for. If you want to have the 1% or 5% or 10% money, you got to be thinking the way the 1%, the 5%, the 10% of people are thinking. And they're thinking about 20 years from now. They're thinking about 30. The only way I began to start investing money on a regular basis in the late 90s was because I realized that this is going to be 2020 one day. It's going to be 2025 one day. What do I have to do to prep for 2020? And I started looking at these tables, these compound interest tables. They weren't on the computer at that point. And I said, man, if I just save this and I get this percentage income or this return on investment, I can get that. Wow. Compound interest. And so compound interest is your friend. So you can't afford to invest too little. You have to invest more. This is thinking different than everybody else. This is forgetting what you were taught to do and what everybody else was doing, right? Planning for the weekend. You want to plan for the weekend in 2040 when you can kick back and chill and have $1 million in your investments. Have $750,000 in your investments or 2 million, right? There's going to be a day come July 1st, 2042. Are you ready for that? Are you preparing for that today? That's how you just have a new philosophy about money. And then if you start thinking that way, guess what's going to happen? You're going to up your percentage into your job's retirement account. You're going to go get the match, and then you're going to go over to Charles Schwab and open up an account and start plugging in money there too, right? Because you're thinking differently about money. You need to take advantage of the retirement accounts at your job, the match. Get the match. Please get the match. And then invest above and beyond the match. If you like what your job is offering and you like your job and plan on being there a while and all that good stuff, then you can invest 10 or 15 or 20% at your job. If you just want to get the match and then take another 10% of your money and open up an account at Vanguard and start investing in Vanguard. And what we talk about on this channel is index funds and ETFs. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. A broad-based index fund or a few broad-based ETFs is all you really need, right? But you have to take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you, the low-hanging fruit. It only costs $1 to invest, but I'm telling you, invest more. Stretch yourself if you can. Too little savings, right? That's another one. Another thing that you got to think about that's going to help you be different than everybody else is increasing the amount of money that you have in your emergency fund. Let me say this, okay? This is really important. Don't have more in your emergency funds than what you need for an emergency. 3 to 4, 3 to 5, 3 to 6 months of your expenses or your needs is all you need. Please don't keep $100,000 sitting in a savings account at a bank. Okay? Don't do that. Okay? Put what you need in there for 3 to 6 months of your living expenses or your living needs, and then everything else invested. But a lot of times people only have $1,000 in their savings account, $1,500 in their savings account, right? But they're paying $500 a month for a car, but they only got $2,000 in the savings account. That's being average. That's being like the regular old middle class person. Don't do that. Make sure you have enough money in your savings account to cover a real emergency, right? Another thing is this: are you being as intentional as you can be with money? When I say intentional as you can be with money, your financial future depends on what's going on right now. People spend a lot of time watching Netflix and watching TV and scrolling on social media, but setting aside 2 hours a week to look at their finances and manage their finances, they don't do it. You want to be different than everybody else, have different than everybody else, be intentional with your money. Do things with money on purpose, because it'll help you understand the concept, or at least get the habit of controlling your money and stop being bullied by your money. Make spending time planning your finances a priority in your life. Be intentional about it, right? You have to be brave enough to not be like other people when it comes to your money. You want to never, ever, ever, when it comes to money. This is my philosophy. You can take it if you want. You don't want to follow the crowd when it comes to money. You want to be a person that's able to make their own decisions with money. And that's going to mean that you have to have a philosophy about money that is a winning philosophy about money. And it's not what you're being told on MSNBC and CNN and Fox or whatever you watch, Bloomberg, Twitter, IG, whatever it may be, right? Because those places are designed to make you a consumer and make you a really, really strong consumer. And that's what most people are. And that's why most people end up losing with their money, because they are a strong consumer, right? You don't want to be a strong, solid I say strong. You don't want to be a big time consumer when it comes to money. You want to be a little more on the frugal side when it comes to money, if you want to be different than everybody else. right? But every piece of money information you get, because you're going to hear a lot of people talk about money. I'm just one person. You're going to be consuming things about money from all different places. You have to be able to filter what you consume about money through your own money philosophy, with skepticism, with questions, with doubt, with scrutiny, with thought, with being intentional with how you think about money. This is how you become different with money. And again, this is not worshiping money. Being intentional with money and focusing on money are two different things. I'm sorry. Being intentional with money and focusing on money and worshiping money are two separate things, right? I'm not saying worship money. I'm saying be intentional with money. I'm saying put a little more focus on your money. Because what you focus on will expand. What you focus on will grow. This is why all of us need to be reading and gathering information and forming our own philosophy that's a winning philosophy with money. Again, if you're losing with money, don't go out and get a philosophy with money or start listening to people that's just confirming you're losing with money. Don't let that be the philosophy that guides your decision making, right? My goal is this when it comes to money, flat out. When the crowd goes right, I'm probably going to go left. When the crowd goes left, I'm probably going to go right with money. Because I understand the crowd is the 90%. The crowd is most people. The crowd is the average middle class person. I'm not trying to be average middle class person. I'm trying to be wealthy. So I can't go left when the middle class goes left or when the average person goes left. I got to go right. And it served me very well in the last 20 years. I learned early 20 years ago that I could not think and be like everyone else if I wanted something different than everyone else had. That's part of what shaped my philosophy with money, right? You have to rethink how you think about money and form your own philosophy if you're not where you want to be with money. You can throw all that other stuff, 90% of everything else that you learned about money, that you grew up with money, and you were taught about money from parents that didn't have a lot of money or did what everybody else did with money. Forget all that. Toss it out the window. Start over. Start over. Right? Let me just run through some chats here, guys. I appreciate you guys being here. I just haven't had a chance to look at the chat, so bear with me. I've been in my own world. But let me just kind of run through a few of them, guys. We have one family vehicle. My husband brought. Right. Hit the like button. Vanessa said, yes, please smash the like button for me, guys. Hit that like button. Share the link to this video with somebody who could use some encouragement, some motivation to do something different, right? Could use this reminder, right? Because we've all made mistakes with money. I talk about my mistakes on here. I want you to understand that I'm a regular old dude that started with nothing, a regular old dude that started with nothing. But I started to change the way I think. I started to do things different than everybody else. I started to look at debt a whole lot different. Like that's another one, right? Debt, right? How you look at, and these things are just flowing off the top of my head, right? Because I didn't have them written down, a lot of the stuff written down. But debt, how do you look at debt? How do you look at it? Think about that for a second. How do you look at debt? Do you look at debt as, oh, well, debt, you can build with debt. And this is what I hear a lot of people say. Oh, yeah, you can leverage debt and you can use debt and you can look. I mean, Warren Buffett does this and Elon Musk does. Listen, I'm not Warren Buffett. I don't have billions of dollars, right? I'm not Jeff Bezos, right? So what Jeff Bezos does with his money is different than what I'm going to do with my money. Okay. Because I got $1 million. Jeff Bezos got 200 billion. We're in two different categories, right? Stratospheres, whatever you want to call it. So a lot of the ultra, uber wealthy, yeah, right? They do things with their money that I'm not going to do, right? They leverage this and leverage that, right? But I'm trying to build wealth, right? How do I build wealth but stay out of trouble? Stay with less debt, right? Less credit card debt, less car debt, right? I don't want that debt because that debt for the average person who's trying to build wealth is a problem. People talk about good debt and bad debt. Debt is debt. All debt is debt. Debt is debt, right? But I still believe that the borrower is slave to the lender, right? Debt is debt. Some debt I can live with. Hear my philosophy on this because it's worked for me. This is a winning philosophy for me. There's debt on things that are appreciating in value. I'm okay with that debt. Debt on things that are going up in value. But debt on things that are going down in value, I'm 100% against. So I'm okay with debt on a piece of property or a rental property, commercial building, right? That's increasing in value because I know that if I hold it for 5 years, today it's worth 30,000. 5 years, that piece of land or that commercial property be worth 40,000 or more, right? Could be 500,000. In 20 years, it'd be 10 years, be worth 600,000 or 700,000. It's going up in value. I'm okay with that debt, but I can't be okay with debt on a car that's losing value. Doesn't make logical sense to me. So part of my philosophy is to get rid of the debt on things that are going down in value and increase my assets. And if I do have debt, only put the debt on things that are going up in value. So right now, today, full disclosure, I don't owe anything. The only thing I owe is on 3 properties. And that is and I owe that because those properties are increasing in value. And I owe a little bit on all 3. But I don't have student loan debt. I don't have car debt. I don't have credit card debt. I don't have medical bill debt. I don't have debt on anything except things that are going up in value. That's my take on debt. But you got to figure out what is your take on debt. And you got to get a winning philosophy with debt because most people that are going to tell you what to do with debt, they're not really winning themselves, right? So what works for you in terms of how you look at debt? I'm challenging you to think about how you look at debt. And you don't have to look at debt the same way the average person who's in debt is looking at debt. You can form your own philosophy, right? So let me see here. I kind of went off on a tangent about debt, but sometimes people buy cars to look cool, said Itchy. No ability to delay the temptation of pleasure leads to a lack of money and wealth. Absolutely. 100%. You have to think differently about what a car is. A car can be a reflection of your personality or just transportation or a business vehicle. All right. Good point, Elvis. A car for me is point A to point B. My car is 17 years old. It's got 170,000 miles on it. A car is point A to point B. I don't care what I look like in a car. Right. I just want that car to get me where I'm going. Gemini says, I'm one of those people who bought a house at less than 3%, but the neighborhood has changed in the short term, but I need a ranch house on 5 acres. That's my next goal. Good luck to you. Somebody said a car is just a tool. Absolutely. People buy expensive watches because it opens doors. Reported a story about expensive watches that open doors. Interesting. Somebody says accelerate was the word I was looking for. You're right. I have an Acura MDX and cost me 80 plus to fuel up. Somebody says car payments are crippling. Absolutely. I agree with that. Mortgage is French for death contract, said Grayman. Somebody said there's also a 10-year mortgage option. Absolutely. Somebody said, why not get a 30-year and pay it off in 15? Gemini, I love that you said that, Gemini. Gemini said, why not get a 30-year mortgage and pay it off in 15? Because 90% of the time, you ain't paying it off in 15. Life gets in the way. So I like to force myself to be on a 15-year. I'm on 15 years on the mortgages I have because at some point, I'm in my early 50s. At some point, I don't want to have a payment in the world at all because not having a payment in the world at all is going to allow me to make less money on a monthly basis, right? When you have a payment, your monthly expenses may be $5,000. You don't have a payment, your monthly expenses might be $2,500. I want to get older and have monthly bills of $2,500. So I don't want to always carry a 30-year note. Nowadays, they might be able to do a 40-year note at some point. More trap. That's what that is. Somebody says, can't find a house around 250. Yeah, you can find a house, Itchy Asian, that's around 250, but it may not be in the area you want it to be in, right? I totally get that. 30-year fixed and pay a 15-year amount, says C29. Yeah, that's what you want to do. Cool. But it's all about having a new money mindset. Curtis Ball. Mrs. Moore said, yes, I shared this info. Awesome. Please share it. Accelerate. Right. Facts. That's a real flex. Paid down mortgage or paid off buy and hold. It's a real flex. It's a flex that a lot of people don't talk about because a lot of people are not 50 years old and thinking about retirement and not having so many expenses as they get older. but it's a real flex to have a paid for home when you're 40 years old, right? Because all it does is give you options, right? It just gives you options. It tells you, hey, I can sell this property and make $300,000 or $400,000 and go do what I want to do. Or it tells you I can refinance this property, I can sell this, whatever. You can do a lot. I can stay there with us. You got to have a house. You got to have a roof over your head, right? You got to have a roof over your head. So why not have a house that you don't make a mortgage payment on? Sure, you still got to pay taxes and insurance and all that good stuff. Let's see here. I watch my in-laws spend and eat their monthly retirement away. I see that and I say to myself, I don't want to be that. Got to plan, got to start planning right now. Is it wrong to negate your home equity from your net worth for motivation and increase your drive? C29, you do what you want to do. If you need that motivation to not include your equity in your home, in your net worth to drive you, you do that. Nothing wrong with that. But just remember, your equity is an asset, right? Let's see. Wealth is an illusion that can vanish overnight. Sure can. Think about the political climate. Would you be better off with money in the bank or a bunker full of food? Good question. Good question. I plan on retiring at 35 to 38. You can do it. You should make a shirt with that slogan. What slogan are you talking about, Itchy Asian? Avery, thank you so much. Good to have you, Avery Fitzgerald. Good to have you in the house, man. I appreciate you being here. And smash the like button for me, Avery, and subscribe to the channel as you have. I appreciate you being here. Let's see. Low time preference, 24-hour a week. Let's see. I'm just reading through them, guys. Working 96 hours straight, started Friday, off Tuesday morning. What's your plans for the weekend? My plan is to put out some videos and share information and help as many people as I can. Somebody said syndicate real estate. Not bad. Partnership, right? Partnering with a bunch of folks on real estate deals, not bad. Somebody said, do you recommend paying off your credit card first, then get an HYSA? So I don't know how much credit card debt you have or how long it would take you, Vanessa, to pay off your credit card first before you get an HYSA. There's nothing wrong with just opening a high yield savings account, right? You can do that at any point. I don't think you have to wait to pay off your credit cards to open a high yield savings account. Are you talking about that using that money? I would pay off a credit card as soon as I could, right? Because you're paying 20% interest or more. So you want to pay off the credit card as soon as possible, but you can still open up a high yield savings account and start putting a little money towards that if you want. Totally up to you. I don't think you have to do one and then do the other. You can open up the account, put a tiny amount of money in there, $100, $50, just so, and then go ahead and attack your credit card debt, right? Totally up to you how you want to do that. An open mind leads to all kinds of open opportunity. Absolutely. Somebody said, Ecclesiastes. Okay, so we got some scripture in here. Good. Nothing wrong with that. Feast is made for laughter. Sandy, thank you so much for the super chat. Sandy, she said, she said, love your live streams. Thank you for giving the hard truth about money, being honest and straightforward. I need that. Sandy, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. I appreciate you being here, and thanks so much for that super chat. Sometimes we need tough love when it comes to money. Point blank. Let's keep it real, guys. Sometimes we need somebody to look at us and say, hey, why are you doing that? What happens to a lot of people is people don't like other people telling them to do things with their money. And when you get to a point where you say, this is my money, I'm going to do what I want to do, and you build yourself a little cocoon around you, and you don't share, you don't learn new things, and you don't afford yourself the opportunity of growth, right? You shut out growth when you tell yourself, this is my money, I'm going to do what I want to do with my money, and you can't tell me to do this, that, the other. And this is what's been, all you've done is close yourself off from growing with money. You don't want to listen to other people. You want to listen to who you want to listen to. That's confirmation bias. You only want to listen to people that validate your thoughts about money already, right? When you do that, that's confirmation bias. You're saying, hey, this is how I think about money. I think debt is a good thing. Yeah. Debt. So you start listening to other people that say debt is a good thing. Yeah. Debt is a good thing. And so you never challenge yourself to do anything different. And when you don't challenge yourself to do anything different or to think differently, you stunt your growth. And this is why you have so many people that can't grow their wealth and can't grow their money, because their growth has been stunted by them. They have stunned themselves from growing. They stop themselves from growing because they don't listen to new ideas and new ways to think about money. They just confirm the ways that they think about money, and it keeps them in a rat race, right? Keeps them not doing as well as they could be doing with their money. I see it all the time because, again, people don't talk to other people about their money very often. People don't have conversations about money. Oftentimes, money is a taboo topic. Don't talk about money. Don't ask about money. Why you want to, and people, they don't even want to share what they make, right? They make $50,000 a year and they act like they're making $5 million a year because they don't want to share it with anybody because they're so tied to this. I don't want anybody knowing about my money. You got to get out of that. I'm not saying you got to get out of that, but loosen up a little bit. It's okay, right? I've been in the public eye for years. If you look me up on LinkedIn, you can see what I do for a living. I'm a contracting officer for the federal government. You can see what I do for a living. And you can look me up. My salary has been public since 1994, what I make every year, because I was a teacher in 1994. And then I went to the government in 2002. So my salary is totally open for anybody to see, right? There's websites that have my salary on there. I don't care. Right? That doesn't matter to me, right? But as a person, you have to be willing to listen to new people, new ideas that challenge the way you think or the way you thought or the way you were raised or the way you were taught about money. That's going to help you grow. It's going to help you discern, start to come up with a different philosophy about money. And that's what you want to do, a philosophy that works. Let's see. Somebody said galaxies, universe. Let's see. I'm a regular old dude just taking knowledge from another regular old dude. That's right, Itchy Asian. I appreciate you. That's all. That's all. Taking in knowledge. You'd be surprised at how many people don't want to hear the knowledge. They don't want to know the knowledge. They want you to prove to them that you're a millionaire before they will listen to something different that you have to say. A lot of people are like that. I never believed in that good debt. Debt is only good until it becomes a headache, said Mr. and Mrs. Edwards. Can't tell. Let's see. Debt free in April. Congratulations to you. First real estate property purchase, Alpha Omega, Willing 2025. Yes, you can do it. You can do it. Debt free in April. Buy your first property. Listen, if you want to reach out to me, I bought a lot of properties over the year. I got 100 videos on this YouTube channel about real estate and getting into real estate, managing real estate, buying real estate. I talk about real estate sometimes as another form of increasing your income on this channel. Please feel free to reach out to me. I can help you with that first purchase, but you got to start researching and you got to start getting yourself ready for that first purchase by doing your due diligence in terms of the real estate markets, et cetera. We can talk about that at some point. Somebody said, what's your advice to Californians? Move? Totally up to you. Totally up to you. Californians are having a tough time right now politically. Tough time crime-wise in some of the larger cities I know. And a lot of them are moving out of there, guys. I got overactive tear ducts. Bear with me. So let's see. Boneyard Lawn Service. Good afternoon. Late, but I'll catch you on the replay. Love the content. Good to have you, Boneyard. Glad you're here and I appreciate you. Somebody said, thanks for sharing this valuable information, taking notes. Fantastic. What are your thoughts on 20-year mortgages? I'm okay with 20-year mortgages. Listen, I'm okay with 30-year mortgages, but here's my point. If you want to increase this thing faster, nothing wrong with a 15-year mortgage. And if you can't afford a 15-year mortgage, maybe you need to buy less house. See, nobody tells you that piece of the story when it comes to buying a property. They just say, I can't afford a 15-year mortgage. That's going to mean an extra $300, $400, $500, $600 on my payment every month. Well, that's because you're trying to buy the $400,000 house. What if you try to buy the $250,000 house? What happens then? Right? And I get what you're saying. There's not a lot of good $250,000 house around me. Maybe you need to move. I mean, we kind of limit ourselves with this. And we don't see that there's other possibilities out there, right? Somebody said, I'm on my 9th year of a 30-year mortgage and pay off in 2 years. Congratulations, realist. You're the small percentage of people that got a 30-year mortgage and paid extra on it to pay it off. Congratulations on that. Let's see here. Let's see let's see. Thank you so much. You're welcome, Vanessa. Good afternoon, everyone. Karen, good to have you here. I like to keep these chats real friendly and everybody helping and talking to each other. Because again, guys, I don't have all the answers. I just have a few answers that help me. So I appreciate it. Almost made a silly money move. Was about to buy tickets to 3 different concerts. All cost over $200 per seat. I just couldn't do it. And here it is. You just confirmed A. Edwards. Yeah. Listen, man, watch him on pay-per-view. Is it pay-per-view? Watch him on somewhere. But Be careful how you spend your money. JT Coin Rings is in the house. Good to have you. JT Coin Rings, thanks so much for the super chat. I appreciate you as always, and thank you for your support, man, the whole time. When I had 1,000 subscribers, JT was here to support me, so I appreciate you, JT. Avery, well, I have paid off my credit card debt. Congratulations, Avery. Congratulations to you, man. Big pat on the back to you, right? When you do something, Avery, every time you reach a milestone with your money, with your credit, with your debt, whatever, every time you reach a milestone, treat yourself. I don't mean treat yourself to a $200 meal, but just find some way to inexpensively treat yourself and have a good time doing it because you want to pat yourself on the back for those wins. Listen, when you're dealing with money, you're going to be winning, and there's not going to be people to pat you on your back. So you got to pat you on the back. Sometimes you got to take care and say, look yourself in the mirror and say, Avery did a good job, man. Hey, let's go do this because you did a good job with that. Let me reward you for XYZ. And maybe you can set up a reward system for yourself so that every time you reach a milestone or you reach a goal, this is what you're going to do. And that could be your motivation, Avery. So again, congratulations to you. I have a rental property that I own. Do I need an LLC? An LLC. Sewer Rat. Do you, what a name, Sewer Rat. All right. Sewer Rat. With one LLC, with one rental property, do you need an LLC? Not necessarily. You could have an LLC if you want to have that extra layer of protection because, if something happens and somebody slips and falls or falls off a roof or something because they're doing work for you, they could sue you, right? But if you have an LLC, they sue the LLC, right? So the point is that, yes, you can if you want, totally up to you. Depends on a lot of other factors in terms of your personal financial situation, but it's possible that you could form an LLC, right? I've got a few rental properties and I have them in an LLC, in separate LLCs, right? So yes, I do have it, an LLC. Somebody said real estate or stocks, only can pick one forever. No, can't only pick one forever. Pick two forever. Do both, real estate and stocks. Sorry, Newski, had to say that. How much should you save up for a house? Mark Moore, in my opinion, you save up as much as possible. Hopefully you save up enough to have, and what type of house? Is it a primary residence or a rental house? If it's a primary residence, maybe you want to avoid PMI and have at least 20% down. The beauty about having 20% down is not just that you avoid PMI, but having 20% down means you walk into the property with equity, right? Let's say it's a $200,000 house. 20% down is $40,000. Now the house you finance $160,000. So if next year we have some crazy thing happen that happened back in 2008 and 9, now instead of being worth $200,000 house, the house is worth $180,000. It went down in value for some odd reason. Guess what? You still got $20,000 of equity in the house because you put down $40,000. Okay, that's one way of looking at it. There's other ways of looking at it, but avoiding PMI is a good thing if you can do it, right? The other thing to think about when you buy a house is, do you have your emergency money saved up in case something goes wrong with the house, or in case you lose your job and you have to still pay the mortgage? So a lot of times people buy a house and they don't have money also set aside to manage an emergency. They use all their emergency money to buy the house. If you can, try to do them separate. Have the emergency money set up and have enough money to cover PMI. I know that sounds like a lot of money. I know it may sound unrealistic. I know it may mean that you got to wait another 2 years to buy a house. I get it, right? But if you want to buy a house right for your own primary residence, that's really how you need to do it, right? And full disclosure, it's not how I did it 20 years ago, okay? But if I'm advising you on the right way to do it, that would be the right way to do it. But we can talk about other ways too, in terms of, a lot of that depends on your personal, finances and where you are right now. So somebody said, bought a few shares of the Mag 7. What are your thoughts? That's cool. You can also get the Mag 7 through S&P 500 index fund, because an S&P 500 index fund or an S&P 500 ETF, 29 or 30 or 35% of that fund is in the Mag 10 or Mag 7, right? It's going to be right there in NVIDIA, Alphabet, Amazon, Tesla, whatever. They are also in the ETF. So I like ETFs and index funds as opposed to individual stocks. But if you bought a few shares of the Mag 7, that's cool. Just keep this in mind, John Smith. I want to share this with everybody. We're talking about, I know we're forgetting 90% of everything, and he asked a question about investing, so I'll answer it. But remember that the Max 7 today is not going to be the Max 7 in 20 years. So if you're buying individual stocks, you got to know when to sell them and when not to sell them, right? The Big 7, they weren't the Big 7 20 years ago, and they won't be the Big 7 in 20 years from now. If you're buying them individually, you got to know when to sell and when not to sell to get out of it. Could be 15 years from now, could be 18 years from now, could be 10 years from now, right? That's the other issue when it comes to investing in single stocks as opposed to ETFs. If you're investing in ETFs or index fund that track the S&P, you don't have to know when to get rid of them. So something else to think about. I'm happy you called the live too, Alvira, however you say it. Hey, Robert, what's up to you? Thanks, Smart Money Bro. I'm using this to get more on code with money. You got it. That's what it's all about, is trying to help you guys get more on code with money. My brother has tried to educate me about my bad money habits. Now that I'm 53, I have new perspective on money. He's a millionaire. Crazy Lurie, you understand what I'm talking about then, right? You try to help people with money, but here's what I found out when you try to help people with money. You cannot help people with money that don't want to be helped. So if you want to be helped with money, you can come to me and I can help you out and give you new ways to think about money, a whole new way to think about money in terms of your personal finances. But if you don't come to me, I'm not forcing myself on you, because I know that you can't change the way you feel and think about money unless you decide to change the way you think and feel about money. So I'm hands off, but I'm here if you need some help. Let's see here. I have to reach out to you as well, Smart Money Bro. I recently opened a Merrill Lynch account through BOA and like to buy some stocks. Seminole, I can help you out. Feel free to reach out. One thing I learned from you is how to live poor. Thank you for the good advice. Yeah, it's okay. I live very, very frugal. I'm not the cheapest person, but I do try to live frugal because I don't try to tie my happiness to stuff. That's being smart with money. I don't tie my happiness to things, to clothes, to shoes, to cars, to houses, to any of that. I don't tie my happiness to that. I don't need all of those things to be happy, right? That allows me a different way of thinking about money, that I don't need to have stuff to be enjoyed and to be joyful or to have gratitude or have to be grateful or anything. None of that has to do with money. That's being smart with money, bros and broettes. Is broette a word? Let's coin that word, right? Should I invest in REITs? REITs are okay. Nothing wrong with REITs. Just be careful. Read the fine print and know what the REIT is invested in. Shopping malls, strip malls, healthcare centers, whatever. Know what the REIT, know your stuff when you're in REITs. Let's see here. Hey there, who dat? Okay, let's see. I sold NVIDIA at 300. Wow. Okay. All righty. It hit 800 yesterday. Yeah, it was 500 last year. And NVIDIA is crazy. It's going way up, right? Let's see here. Just answer and do a little Q&A right now, guys. But the whole thing is I want you to think about, in terms of how I answer these questions, I want you to think about maybe adopting a new way of looking at money, forgetting about 90% of everything that you were taught with money, and now putting out or having a new philosophy with money, a new way of thinking about money that's going to propel you, put you on a new trajectory to go a whole new direction with money. I know for a fact that there's people watching this video who don't have much and don't make much. They make $30,000 a year and they're trying to figure out, how do I pay my bills and partake in some of this stuff that you're talking about, Smart Money Bro? I just don't have the money. Listen to me closely. If you get really, really intentional with your money and you figure out ways to spend less and make more, increase your income, raise your value, whatever it could be, you can do some of the things I'm telling you about, right? It doesn't cost money to think different. It doesn't cost you a dime. So you can start to think differently about money on a $25,000 a year salary or on a $125,000 a year salary. That's free. This is free, right? When you go to YouTube and you look for stuff, that's free to change how you think about money. Don't cost you any money. It costs you a little bit of ego. It might cost you a little bit of energy. It might cost you a little bit of time, but you can do this on a $25,000 a year salary. And then once you start understanding that that's possible and believing that it's possible, Then you can get to the point in your mind where you can start thinking about, extra income, raising my skills, getting better at what I do so that I don't make $25,000 a year on the job as a custodian. Now I make $35,000 a year on the job as a custodian because they promoted me to head custodian because I'm the best at what I do. And now I don't make $35,000 as that, but now I start my own cleaning business on the side because I have a little extra money. Boom, I get a couple contracts. Now I'm making $45,000 a year. You started with 25, but because you changed your mind, now you're at 45. Then you do something else. You hire a couple people. Now you get a few more. Now you're at $55,000 a year. Now you're at $60,000 a year. It all starts here, and this is free. Forgetting about 90% of everything that you were taught with money and changing your mentality to start over right here, right? Listen, I appreciate you guys being here. I'm not going to hold you. I go long sometime. This was supposed to be a 40-minute video. I say it all the time, but I get enthralled in what I'm talking about, and I get passionate about what I'm trying to teach and talk and have this conversation with you guys. And this is important to me, right? I'm not here to make a whole bunch of money to sell a bunch of courses. I'm on here to change lives with money, change lives with how people think about money, change lives to get people to understand that it's possible for you to be different with money and for you to have more. And there's plenty out here for all of you. Everybody watching this can be a millionaire. Everybody watching this can be successful with money. It doesn't have to be a millionaire. It could be $200,000, could be $80,000, whatever it is, whatever that target is, it could be for you. You have the possibility to do it. Right? You gotta smash the like button. You gotta smash that like button. This stuff is too valuable to hold on to yourself. This information is too valuable for you to keep it all just for you. Share it with somebody. That's the best way that you can support this channel, is to share the video. It's not to buy my one-on-one services. You can buy them if you want. That's okay. If you need some personal financial help, you can do that. You can join this channel. If you join this channel at the advanced level, I have these conversations with you about your personal finances once a month for $25 a month. That's nothing to have somebody else look at your personal finances on paper or just have a conversation with you and you bounce ideas off of, right? But you can join at the advanced level and I'll do that for you. And listen, you can ask anybody. I put this same level of energy, this same level of thought into a one-on-one conversation that's 15, 20 minutes with you personally, because it's important to me to give you what I got. All right. So listen, smash the like button, check in on YouTube in the description box to get your 24 laws of money. If you're looking for an inexpensive way, I partnered with Mint Mobile on this video. They're the world's fastest 5G network. They use it, and you can save money on your premium wireless plan. That's what the channel is all about. Saving more money, investing more money, having more money, all that good stuff. So check out the link to Mint Mobile and you might have been, I've seen a lot of commercials about Mint Mobile lately. You might be seeing these commercials as well, but they're out there, but it's really solid. And again, if you have a comment, drop that comment on these lives. I try to get to all the comments that show up on the lives because I want to try to answer them. I can't get to all of them. I try, but I can't. But please, thanks for your support. I appreciate you for you guys being here. If you didn't get the whole thing, rewind back to the beginning and check it out. We did a lot of talk about this. Forgetting everything you learned, having a new winning mindset with money. Again, I appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. I think I'm going to do a live tomorrow, probably 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll do a live because I got something else on my mind that I almost mentioned here, but I think I'm going to wait and talk about that and just hit the record button and freestyle that. But I appreciate you guys more than you know. Thank you so much for helping this channel grow. Hey, that rhymed. I appreciate you more than you know. Thanks for helping this channel grow. Oh, maybe I just found a new ending tag, right? Appreciate you more, you know. Thanks for. All right. Hey, I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much. Enjoy your day. And until next time, listen, the best person who's going to take care of the old you is the young you. Take care of yourself, right? And take care of other people. Until the next video. Peace.